On my 30th birthday, I told my family, "We have to cut back. I can't keep paying everything forever." Dad rolled his eyes and said, "Then start with your brother's six-figure debt." I refused. When I got back, my things were on the porch, locks changed. "Think about what you did," they said. I didn't make a scene. I said nothing, just scheduled a message. The next morning, everything changed. "Happy birthday, Josh," my mom said, her voice cheery and fake, like she hadn't just guilt-tripped me an hour earlier for not offering to pay off Kyle's car loan. I sat at the end of the dining table, a slice of store-bought cake in front of me, half-melted wax dribbling from a crooked 30 candle. My dad slouched across from me, one arm draped casually over the chair, the other nursing a beer. My brother Kyle, 28, unemployed, and apparently allergic to responsibility, was scrolling through his phone with one hand and texting with the other. His new iPhone, of course, the one I bought. "So," I said, clearing my throat. My heart was pounding, but I tried to sound calm. "We need to talk about the money." Dad grunted. Mom blinked. Kyle didn't look up. "I can't keep covering everything," I said. "I'm trying to build a future for myself. I've been paying the mortgage here, covering utilities, groceries. I paid off Kyle's second DUI fine last year. I need to cut back." Kyle looked up then. "You're acting like it's charity." I stared at him. "It is." He laughed. "Wow. Okay." Then Dad leaned forward, eyes narrowed like I'd just insulted the Pope. "Then start with your brother's six-figure debt. That's the real issue, isn't it?" Mom gave him a sideways glance, like she wished he hadn't said it out loud. Kyle went very still. "I'm not paying that," I said quietly. "That's not my responsibility." The room went cold. No one moved. Dad leaned back again, lips twitching into something like a sneer. "Well," he said, "guess we know where you stand." When I got back from work the next day, all my things, my clothes, my books, my tools, the laptop I used to freelance, were stacked neatly on the porch. The locks had been changed. There was a note taped to the door. "Think about what you did." That was all it said. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the handwriting. My mother's. Neat, precise, unmistakable. I didn't knock. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I took a deep breath, picked up my bags, and walked away. Then I scheduled the message. The next morning, everything changed. To understand how we got here, to a birthday eviction and a note that felt like a slap, you'd have to go back 10 years. I was 20 when Kyle totaled his first car. Drunk, of course. Mom cried. Dad screamed. And I, the golden oldest son with a steady job and no record, paid the tow fee and loaned him $3,000 for repairs. He never paid it back. It was supposed to be a one-time thing. But somehow, it became a pattern. When Kyle dropped out of college, it was my fault for not helping him study. When he lost 3 jobs in a year, I got a lecture about how some people just struggle more. When he overdrafted his account, I'd get a call from Mom, gentle and guilt-laced. "Josh, sweetheart, he's your brother. Can't you just cover it this once?" And I always did. I paid the rent when Kyle got evicted. I paid the insurance on his car, a car he drove to parties while I walked to work. I bought groceries, covered our parents' property tax when they got behind, and still managed to pay for night classes to get my certification in electrical systems. All while Kyle spent his days in the basement, working on music and doing nothing useful. The worst part? He didn't even pretend to be grateful. In fact, he acted like it was owed to him. "Josh is doing great," he'd say, waving his hand like I was a faceless ATM. "He's got it." That's what big brothers are for. My parents ate it up. I could have moved out. Should have. But every time I brought it up, Mom would get teary-eyed and say, "This house only feels like a home with you in it." Dad would say, "Don't be dramatic," and remind me I only paid a portion of the bills, like covering everything, but the phone plan wasn't enough. And Kyle? He'd smirk and say, "Why leave when you've got it so good?" Yeah, I had it good. I was working 60-hour weeks, barely seeing daylight, while my brother bought new headphones with money he borrowed from me. I was skipping lunches to save, while Dad used my paycheck to fix the AC unit and told me I should be grateful I didn't have to deal with a landlord. It all boiled over 2 months before my birthday. I'd just gotten home from a 14-hour shift when I found Kyle throwing a party. My gaming PC, the one I built piece by piece over 5 years, was set up in the living room, hooked up to his sound system. His friends were passed out on the couch. Beer bottles littered the floor. My keyboard was sticky. I didn't yell. I just unplugged everything and took it back to my room. The next morning, I got a lecture from Mom. You embarrassed him, she said, voice sharp. His friends saw you storming around like a maniac. They were using my stuff, I said. It's not just your house, she snapped. Everything here is shared. That word, shared, hit me like a slap. Shared. Like the mortgage I paid. The groceries I bought. The electricity bill that literally came out of my account. That night, I looked over my budget. I was so close. Just a few more months of saving, and I could get out. For real this time. Then came Kyle's brilliant new business idea, crypto trading. He invested $25,000 of his student loans he had no intention of repaying, and lost it in 2 weeks. He blamed the app, the market, his friends. Then he turned to me. You could spot me 10 grand, he said, like he was asking for a ride to the store, just to get me back on track. I laughed, and for the first time in years, I said no. That's when the tone shifted. I wasn't reliable anymore. I was selfish, ungrateful, elitist. You think you're better than us now? Dad asked one night after dinner. Just because you've got a little money in the bank? I'm not better, I said. I'm just tired. The next morning, Kyle posted a tweet. He thought I wouldn't see it. That said, some people only give when they think they can control you. Cut them off and watch their true face show. He got over 300 likes. I didn't say a word. Then came my birthday. And I thought, stupidly, naively, that maybe, just maybe, we could keep it civil. A quiet dinner. A small cake. No drama. Instead, I got an ambush. Dad's eyes on me the whole time, daring me to bring up money. Kyle cracking jokes about how I should open up my trust fund, which doesn't exist. Mom smiling too brightly, like she could keep it all from boiling over with enough forced cheer. And when I finally said it, I can't keep paying for everything, the dam burst. Then start with your brother's 6-figure debt, Dad said. Not as a joke, not as a challenge, but as an expectation. And when I said no, they didn't argue. They just threw me out. Like garbage. But they made one mistake. They forgot who taught me to stay quiet, to be patient, to never react. Because this time, I had a plan. I didn't respond to their note. Didn't knock. Didn't text. Didn't cry. I just picked up my bags, stuffed what I could into the backseat of my old Toyota, and drove to the cheapest motel I could find. One of those roadside ones where the air smells like cigarettes and the vending machine eats your money without remorse. I sat on the edge of the bed, the notes still crumpled in my fist. Think about what you did. I did. I thought long and hard. And then, I scheduled the message. See, over the years, I'd learned a few things. One being that every family has its own myth, its own legend they tell themselves. Ours went like this. Josh is the dependable one. Josh always helps. Josh always shows up. And because he always shows up, we can do whatever we want. They had no idea I'd been documenting everything for the past 2 years. Every Venmo request, every invoice, every transfer. Every time I bailed someone out, I saved the receipt. Every passive-aggressive message, every guilt trip. Every time they said, "You're being dramatic," when I asked for boundaries, logged, stored, and dated. And then there was the letter I wrote. Months ago. Before my birthday. Back when I first started thinking, what if I left? It wasn't a goodbye letter. It was a confession. Of everything. How I paid off the second mortgage without telling them, because the bank called me, not them. How I found out Kyle had stolen my identity to apply for a $15,000 personal loan. Declined, thank God, but the inquiry was still on my credit report. How my parents knew, and asked me not to press charges. Family sticks together, they said. I stuck. Until I didn't. That morning, the morning after I got thrown out of the house I paid for, I pressed send. I didn't just send it to them. I sent it to our extended family. My godmother in Tampa. Uncle Dave in New Jersey. My mom's cousins, dad's siblings, their church group. Everyone. Along with the receipts. Screenshots. Bank records. Text messages. Voice recordings. All neatly organized. I even included a spreadsheet titled, What Josh Actually Paid For. It went viral within our family in under an hour. By noon, my phone was melting. 26 missed calls from Mom. 8 from Dad. Kyle didn't call. He sent one text. You didn't have to do that. That was cold. I didn't reply. At 12:37 p.m., my Aunt Maria, who I hadn't seen in years, sent me a message. Good for you. I always knew they were using you. Proud of you, sweetheart. Then came the fallout. Apparently, my parents' reputation in their little suburban bubble meant more to them than I thought. The image of the perfect, close-knit, morally upright family shattered. People started asking questions. Why was Josh footing the bill while Kyle went on vacations? Why did the note on the door look like something out of a Lifetime movie? Why did Kyle have new headphones, sneakers, and tattoos while unemployed? Why did Josh live in the basement like a tenant when he was paying for everything? Dad tried to spin it. We were giving him structure, he told one relative. It was all agreed upon. Wrong move. I'd attached the recording from the night they kicked me out. I'd been recording on my phone, slipped into my jacket pocket before dinner. The voice note was crystal clear. Dad, then start with your brother's debt. Me, I'm not paying that. Dad, then get out. Mom, think about what you did. They couldn't spin that. The kicker? I also reported the stolen identity case. I'd let it slide the first time. No more. When the police showed up at the house to ask Kyle about the fraudulent loan attempt, things got loud. A neighbor caught it on video. Yelled voices. A slammed door. Kyle shouting something about how he deserved a break. Someone, probably my mom, screamed, "We told you not to make this worse." That clip landed on the local neighborhood Facebook group. And just like that, the family who used to whisper about other people's drama became the front page gossip. I didn't watch it happen. I was too busy moving into my new apartment. A one-bedroom over a flower shop downtown. Quiet. Sunlight in the mornings. A kitchen that didn't smell like old arguments. I paid the deposit with money I should have been saving all along. That night, I sat on the couch, no TV, just my laptop and some takeout, and watched the chaos unfold from a distance. They tried to call me again, dozens of times. When I didn't answer, Mom showed up at my work. She waited in the lobby, eyes red, holding a Tupperware of my favorite casserole like that would undo years of being used. I met her outside. She opened her mouth, but I stopped her. "I'm not coming back," I said. Calm. Even. Cold. "Josh," she whispered, "you're tearing this family apart." I laughed. "No," I said. "I just stopped holding it together." She flinched. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. That was the moment it changed. Not just the family dynamic. Me. I finally saw them clearly. Not as helpless parents. Not as a struggling brother. But as people who made choices. Repeatedly. And now, they were facing the consequences. It's strange how silence can feel louder than screaming. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waking up to the sound of Kyle's music shaking the drywall, or Dad banging cabinets like a tantrum in a polo shirt. I wasn't tiptoeing around Mom's passive-aggressive moods, waiting for the next emotional landmine. Instead, I had stillness. In the mornings, I made coffee without checking if someone used the last of the milk. I could leave my wallet on the counter without worrying it might mysteriously go missing. I didn't have to justify every purchase, every boundary, every breath. No one asked for money. No one demanded explanations. No one texted me just to manipulate me. It was disorienting at first. I kept expecting the peace to end. Like I'd walk in the door and find Kyle sprawled on my couch, shoes on the cushions, asking if I could spot him again. But they never came. Oh, the calls didn't stop, not at first. Mom left long voicemails, her voice shaky, carefully layered with guilt. "Josh, this isn't you. You've always been the strong one. The helper. Please don't let pride ruin our family." Dad sent one text. Just one. "You better be proud of yourself." I didn't respond. Eventually, the messages slowed, then stopped. 3 weeks after I moved out, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From Kyle. It was surprisingly short. "I know I screwed up. I was just doing what they always let me do. But now it's all turned on me. Mom and Dad are a mess. No one talks to us anymore. You blew it all up. Hope it was worth it." No apology. Just blame. That told me everything I needed to know. I didn't reply. Instead, I got to work rebuilding what they tried to take from me. I signed up for a coding boot camp, something I'd wanted to do for years but kept putting off because we need help with the bills this month. I started freelancing in the evenings, saving for the future I wanted, not the one they guilt me into funding. I found friends. Real ones. People who didn't ask for anything except honesty. People who didn't care how much I made, just how I was. I joined a local climbing gym, rediscovered a love for movement and risk, for pushing myself on my terms, not carrying others who refused to move. Therapy helped too. Turns out years of being the fixer leaves bruises you can't see. My therapist called it parentification, when a child is expected to play the role of an adult, emotionally and financially. She helped me realize I was never selfish. I was exhausted. Meanwhile, back at the old house, they imploded. Mom had to go back to work. She hated it. She'd spent the last decade playing house manager with someone else's money, mine. Dad started drinking more. Apparently, he got into a shouting match with a neighbor who asked about the Josh situation. Kyle, from what I heard, finally got a job at a gas station. It lasted 6 days. Then he blamed the manager, like always. Extended family pulled away. They'd seen too much, heard too much. The myth of our happy little family didn't survive the evidence. And I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to fix it. I didn't go to Thanksgiving. I spent it with a friend's family, people who laughed at the dinner table instead of walking on eggshells. I brought pie. They called me family and meant it. At Christmas, I got a card from my godmother. Inside was a short note. You deserved better. And you finally claimed it. I'm proud of you. I cried reading it. Not because I was sad, because for the first time, I felt seen. You know what happens after you set fire to your old life? Nothing. No dramatic explosions. No last-minute reconciliations. Just silence. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. For the first time in 3 decades, my phone didn't buzz with guilt-laced texts or last-minute requests for money. There were no urgent calls about Kyle losing his license, or Dad needing help with taxes he never planned for, or Mom crying because we just don't feel like a family anymore. They expected me to come crawling back. They always did. They thought I'd feel guilty. They thought I'd feel alone. But here's what actually happened. I felt free. I could breathe. I could stand in my own space, the one I paid for, furnished, cleaned, and not worry that someone would steal my food, take my keys, or demand my future. I'd been holding my family on my shoulders for so long that I forgot what it felt like to walk upright, to live for myself, to not be needed. They used to call me the backbone of the family. No, I was the fuse. And now that I'm gone, the fire they built around me has nowhere left to spread but back onto them. 2 months after the blow-up, I ran into Kyle. Of course it was at a gas station. He was behind the counter. Name tag crooked. Eye sunken. Still had that fake swagger, but it looked worn out, like a bad knockoff from a better version of him. Josh, he said. Smirked. Didn't expect to see you in town. I just nodded. He leaned in. You know you really screwed things up for them, right? I blinked. You mean when I stopped paying your debt? He shrugged. They're still dealing with the fallout. You really made a mess. I looked him dead in the eye. You're mistaking me cleaning up my life for ruining yours. Then I paid for my gas and left him there, staring at the door like he couldn't believe the ATM walked away. He still doesn't get it. None of them do. Because people like Kyle don't learn from consequences, not until the money runs out and the spotlight fades. And I'm not sticking around to watch that lesson play out. Here's the thing no one tells you about breaking away from a toxic family. It's not the distance that hurts. It's the realization that you were never loved unconditionally. You were useful, valued for your silence, your sacrifice, your bank account. But love without respect isn't love. It's leverage. So when people ask, would you ever talk to them again? I don't hesitate. No, because I finally love myself more than their approval. I used to crave their validation like oxygen. Every good grade, every promotion, every loan I paid off, a desperate hope that maybe this time they'd see me. But they only saw what I could do for them, never who I was beneath it. Now I see me. A man who paid off 3 mortgages that weren't his. A man who stayed up late to tutor his brother who never tried. A man who kept the lights on in a house that always made him feel like a guest. And finally, a man who said, no more. I've built a new life from the ground up. And this time, the foundation isn't guilt or obligation. It's peace. It's choice. It's mine. I spend my weekends hiking, reading, taking classes. I'm learning photography, something I put off for years because there's more important things to pay for. I'm dating someone who doesn't need saving, who asks about my day, who doesn't call me selfish for having boundaries. Sometimes, late at night, I'll lie in bed and think about the kid I used to be, the one who tiptoed through his own home, who handed over his paycheck like a ritual, who believed if he just tried hard enough, they'd love him the right way. And I whisper, you got out. You made it. You don't owe them silence anymore. Let them gossip. Let them twist the story. Let them call me ungrateful, dramatic, cold. Because here's the truth they'll never say out loud. Without me, their system collapsed. Without me, their lies didn't hold. Without me, the truth finally came out loud, raw, undeniable. And I didn't even have to yell. I just walked away. And sometimes, the quietest act of rebellion is leaving the door locked.